Ceasefire tensions flare as Israeli strikes kill 3 in Gaza. EU court rules dogs in cargo are baggage limiting airline compensation. A deadly buzz blasts rocks Syria's oil heartland. And Madagascar's ousted President Rajoelina confirms exile after coup. Good afternoon. Welcome to The World in 30 Minutes on Politics and Business Television. I'm Fatima Abubakar Oibo. Many thanks for joining us. Details of this news story and more content to come after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now the news in details. Despite a fragile ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, at least 3 Palestinians were killed in Gaza following Israeli military action. Medical sources in Gaza confirmed the deaths, which occurred amid ongoing tensions and accusations of ceasefire violations. The Israeli military claimed the individuals had crossed a designated buffer zone, prompting what it described as a defensive response. The incident comes as humanitarian conditions in Gaza remain dire, with the Rafah crossing into Egypt still closed and aid deliveries severely restricted. Meanwhile, Hamas returned the remains of 2 Israeli captives, though it stated that more bodies remain buried under rubble and require specialized equipment to retrieve. Israel's defense minister has instructed the military to prepare for a potential collapse of the ceasefire, signaling that peace remains precarious. Days after a ceasefire was declared between Hamas and Israel, humanitarian aid remains critically limited in Gaza, leaving thousands of sick and injured children without essential medical support. Fewer than 300 trucks are entering the territory daily, far below the 600 needed, and many carry commercial goods instead of life-saving supplies. Al Jazeera reports that children lack basic necessities like clothes, hygiene kits, and medicine, with aid distribution stalled due to empty warehouses. Humanitarian organizations warn that the situation is deteriorating rapidly as displaced families shelter in overcrowded tents and medical evacuations proceed at a dangerously slow pace. UNICEF estimates that at the current rate, it will take over 7 years to evacuate the 2,500 children needing urgent care. Despite the ceasefire, Gaza's youngest remain trapped in a crisis of survival. Meanwhile, the European Court of Justice (ECJ) has ruled that pets transported in an aircraft cargo hold can be classified as baggage, significantly limiting the compensation airlines must pay if the animals are lost or damaged. The decision stems from a 2019 case involving a dog that escaped from its carrier at Buenos Aires airport while being loaded onto an Iberia flight to Barcelona and was never recovered. The court found that under international air transport law, pets are not excluded from concept of baggage, meaning standard liability limits apply unless a special declaration of interest is made during check-in. In this case, the passenger had not made such a declaration and her claim for £5,000 in emotional damages was rejected. Animal rights groups have criticized the ruling, arguing it undermines the welfare of companion animals and treats them as mere cargo. The ECJ stated that its judgment aims to balance EU animal welfare standards with existing transport regulations, but the decision has sparked calls for legislative reform to better protect pets during air travel. In the meantime, President Donald Trump has confirmed that he authorized the CIA to conduct covert operations in Venezuela, marking a sharp escalation in U.S. efforts to pressure President Nicolas Maduro's government. The directive, first reported by the New York Times, is part of a broader strategy aimed at regime change, with Trump also revealing that land strikes are under consideration, following a series of U.S. naval attacks attacks on alleged drug smuggling vessels in the Caribbean. The move has sparked international concern and condemnation from Maduro, who denounced the operation as coup attempt, reminiscent of past U.S. interventions in Latin America. Meanwhile, U.S. lawmakers have voiced alarm over the potential for broader conflict as tensions between Washington and Caracas continue to mount. A government-owned bus was struck by an explosive device near Deir az-Zor in eastern Syria, killing 4 security personnel and injuring 9 others. The vehicle, operated by the Syrian Ministry of Energy, was traveling between Deir az-Zor and Al-Mayadin when the attack occurred. Authorities described the incident as a cowardly terrorist act aimed at destabilizing efforts to rebuild the country's vital energy infrastructure. The victims were reportedly guards assigned to protect oil facilities in the region, which has long been a strategic and contested area. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack, and investigations are ongoing. The blast underscores the persistent volatility in Syria, even as the government attempts to restore critical services and infrastructure. French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has weathered 2 no-confidence motions in Parliament, securing his position just days after forming a new government. The motions, brought by the far-left France Embold and far-right National Rally parties, failed to gain the necessary vote, thanks in part to support from the Socialist Party. Lecornu's pledge to suspend President Macron's controversial pension reform helped sway moderates and avoid a second government collapse in as many weeks. With the political storm temporarily calmed, Lecornu now turns its attention to pushing through a draft budget aimed at stabilizing France's economy and ending months of turmoil. The budget proposal is expected to face intense scrutiny as opposition parties remain skeptical of the government's fiscal priorities. Lecornu's survival marks a critical moment for the administration, but the path ahead remains politically charged. You're still watching The World in 30 Minutes live on Politics and Business TV. Still to come, EU proposes drone wall to shield eastern airspace from Russian intrusions. Stay with us. Welcome back. The European Union is advancing plans for a drone wall to defend its eastern borders following a surge in Russian drone incursions into member states' airspace. The initiative, part of the European Drone Defense Initiative, was prompted by recent violations over Poland, Denmark and Germany, and aims to deploy advanced detection and interception system across vulnerable regions. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen emphasized the urgency of bolstering airspace security amid growing geopolitical tensions. Despite widespread support, the proposal faces political and technical hurdles, with EU officials acknowledging that current capabilities are limited. The 5-year roadmap envisions full deployment by 2027, drawing on Ukraine's battlefield experience to shape strategy and technology. As the bloc navigates internal debates and funding challenges, the drone wall symbolizes Europe's shifting defense posture in response to evolving threats from Russia and Belarus. A series of explosions shook Ecuador this week, prompting a swift response from security forces and raising fears of escalating violence. The blast occurred in multiple locations, including near government buildings and public infrastructure, with initial reports indicating several injuries and widespread damage. Ecuadorian officials have attributed the attacks to a local criminal gang operating in coordination with dissident factions of Colombia's former FARC rebel group. The government has since launched a nationwide security operation to track down those responsible, while President Daniel Noboa condemned the violence as an assault on national stability. Intelligence sources suggest the attacks may be linked to ongoing tough wars over drug trafficking routes. As Ecuador continues to grapple with rising organized crime, the incident underscored the country's growing security challenges and the regional implications of transnational criminal alliances. Back to Africa, Madagascar impeached President Andry Rajoelina has confirmed he fled the country following a military-backed coup that ousted him from power. In a video message released from an undisclosed location, Rajoelina said he left to protect his life after elite army units sided with mass protests demanding his resignation. The unrest culminated a parliamentary vote that removed him from office, triggering celebrations in the capital Antananarivo. The coup was led by Colonel Michael Randrianrina, who announced the suspension of government institutions except the National Assembly. He expected to be sworn in as interim president pending the formation of a transitional government. The African Union has condemned the takeover and suspended Madagascar from its ranks, citing a breach of democratic norms. Despite his impeachment and exile, Rajoelina has refused to formally concede power, calling the coup unconstitutional. His defiance has raised concerns about prolonged instability in the island nation, which has endured repeated political crises over the past 2 decades. Nigeria has emerged as a leading academic force in sub-Saharan Africa, with 24 universities featured in the 2026 Times Higher Education World University Rankings. The University of Ibadan reclaimed its position as the country's top institution, ranking within the 801 to 1000 global band, alongside the University of Lagos, Nigeria's only 2 entries in the world's top 1,000. Out of 51 Nigerian universities assessed, the rankings reflect a reshuffling of the academic hierarchy, with Bayero University, Kano, and Confidence University also earning notable placement. Experts attribute Nigeria's strong performance to increased research output, faculty development, and international partnerships. And that wraps up the program. But before we go, the headlines again. Ceasefire tensions flare as Israeli strikes kill 3 in Gaza. EU court rules dogs in cargo are baggage limiting airline compensation. Deadly bus blasts rock serious oil heartland. Madagascar ousted President Rajoelina confirms exile after coup. From me, Fatima Abubakar Oyibo, to have a lovely day. Bye for now.